All right, I want to welcome everybody to our October startup grind here in Louisville. Very excited for the conversation and the discussion that we're going to have today. We've got a distinguished group of panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedules to join us today to celebrate Black leaders and people of color in our community. And I can't wait to have this discussion and conversation here in Louisville with everything that's been going on with Breonna Taylor at the center of so many things that's happening, a lot of the challenges and diversity and racial issues. Louisville has been at the center of that. And we've got some folks that here that are working very hard to make a difference in the Black community and for people of color. And we just have to have a good, candid conversation about this, especially as business leaders, about what we can do. And I look forward to doing that today. So before I introduce our panelists, I do want to thank our sponsors for making this event possible today. First of all, Amplify Louisville is our annual presenting sponsor. Larry Horn, Mike Gazinzo, and the folks at Amplify, they've been big supporters of us here at Startup Grind, and we're very grateful for them. We've also got a brand new event sponsor. Render Capital has come on board to be sponsoring some of our upcoming events. We're very grateful to have them supporting what we're doing as well. We also want to thank Citation Labs and Strategex for being some of our event partners as well. And as a quick reminder, this isn't a sponsor, but we do want to give a shout out to Lisa Bajornis, who's leading up the Vote Awards, which is going to be happening tomorrow evening. So Lisa, why don't you take just a minute or so to tell us a little bit about the Vote Awards tomorrow night, how people can register and what's going on?
Great. Thanks so much, Adam. So I absolutely tomorrow at 4 o'clock for what I think and really feel is one of the key anchor assets in our Louisville startup community. So this is the Vote Awards, which is managed by the Community Foundation of Louisville. And fun fact, if you didn't know, this is the 20th anniversary that the Community Foundation has made grant awards to early stage founders to help them to grow, innovate, and commercialize their companies. So we are very excited for the culmination of this year's Accelerator program, which is our annual demo day tomorrow. It'll be a virtual event, the first time for that this year. Everybody. And here's the thing. I know that most of you are really kind of tired of Zoom calls and whatnot, but we have worked with Business First as our production partner to really have an engaging, exciting, interactive and engaging event tomorrow to showcase our 6 companies that are. So you'll get to hear from these great founders, tell the stories of their businesses, the progress they've made. You'll be able to chat. You'll be able to, after they give their live pitches, and yes, I said live pitches, you'll be able to interact with them one-on-one and ask them questions after they give their presentation. So we're excited that Natalia is one of those 6 founders with her company Level Up, and we've got 5 other great ones. Starts at 4 o'clock, and you can access this free event via voteawards.com, VOGT, voteawards.com. Register, sign up, join us tomorrow. Great, huge celebration. I'm really excited for these 6 founders. We want everybody to be there to celebrate with them. So thanks, Adam.
You're welcome, Lisa. Well, thank you for your hard work in doing the Vote Awards this year. What a big event, the 20th celebration. So I can't wait to see it tomorrow. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and introduce our panelists today. So it's such an honor to have these 4 individuals here to talk with us about what's going on with Black leaders in our community, how we as business leaders can come forward and help the community and other folks of color. And it's really neat how I've come to know all of these folks. So first, just Dr. Johnson, I was introduced to her first, actually with Natalia. I heard about Dr. Johnson and the work that she was doing. And then a couple months ago, Dr. Johnson served as a a judge in a Startup Grind event, and I was just so impressed with her level of questioning and the depth of research she did to be a judge, and was blown away. And I got to have a follow-up conversation with her, and just one of the smartest people I've ever met. So we're so excited to have her here today. So Dr. Johnson, thank you for your time and for being here today. And then I also want to introduce Aubrey Lipscomb. Aubrey and I have been close friends for many, many, many years. Aubrey's one of my best friends, and we go way back. And Aubrey and I are now actually co-founders of a project called LOPOL. LOPOL stands for Love on People Out Loud. Back over the summer, we were in the Bible study and talking about a lot of what's going on, and he shared how much his heart was hurting because of all the racial injustice and things that was going on. And we started talking about, well, what can we do about this? And Aubrey's going to share that story in a little bit, but we decided rather than just talking about it, to do something about it. And it's an honor to have Aubrey here and to serve with him in this project that we're doing. And then Natalia Bishop, what can I say about Natalia? Love Natalia, what she's doing. It was a privilege to be able to work alongside her at Story Louisville. Her passion and her desire to help people is so strong, and it's an energy that just drew me to Story and to Natalia. And it's so exciting to see everything that she's continuing to do and the challenges she's fighting through at Story. I just love it. And then Level Up, all the success that's happening there. Can't wait to see that tomorrow with Vote Awards. But Natalia is a champion for women, underserved people in this community, and can't wait to hear from her. And then Shane is the person that I've probably known the least of this, but I've just grown to respect Shane so much. I posted something on social, I forgot what it was, and Shane reached out to me and said, hey, Adam, you may want to think about this. And that actually led to a conversation. And over the last few months, Shane and I have had some fantastic conversations about all things, my goodness, relating to race and, just the political stuff that's going on and all that. And Shane he is here because he's one of the biggest allies I have seen yet in the white community for the Black community and other people of color. And I thought it was important to get that kind of perspective here. Shane has done so much digging in and research and things like that on this topic. And he has educated me and opened my eyes on many things that I did not know before. So Shane has just been such an advocate for people of color, and he's helped me in so many ways. So I wanted to have him here today to give his insights and share his stories. So that is our panel. So thank you all for being here today. So what I want to do is just kind of go around here and give each of you guys a couple minutes to just talk a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing. So Dr. Johnson, we'll start with you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here, Adam. I have a few different things I do. First and foremost, I'm CEO and founder of MEMStim, which is a medical device startup that makes implants for individuals that are suffering from hearing loss, chronic pain, heart failure. We are in the development phase, but one of our primary markets that we're going after is in cochlear implants, making the actual part of that device that goes inside the cochlea is implanted inside the ear. And we're making that device using automated manufacturing, which is wildly different from how they do it now, which you can almost liken to custom jewelry making is what I call it. It's literally people welding platinum wires and platinum beads together under a microscope, micro welding. And so it's a tedious process, it's an expensive process, and it really doesn't allow for innovation that would help individuals to adapt over time to their technology. And that's really what we've been focusing on. In addition to MEMStim, just being here in Louisville and noticing that there weren't a lot of Black entrepreneurs that were visible in the startup scene in Louisville. There's a lot of Black entrepreneurs in Louisville, but not visible in the startup scene. And so with that being said, I started doing programming through a company, another company I made called Visionarium, where we really focus on doing training, educational training, entrepreneurial training, and leadership training for entrepreneurs of color, or as I call them, visionaires. So people that are vision rich, execution thick, but really just need some resources to get along the way. So we've done pitch competitions, we've done accelerator programs. A lot of what we do now, of course, is very much so virtual, but we're even shifting to virtual before COVID. So that's kind of the short of it, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Angelique. Okay, Aubrey, you're next.
Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, I'm excited and humbled to be among the people that are here. So thanks for having me. Just my background, I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I used to be a commodities broker, used to trade energy for years, but about 16 years ago, I bought a cleaning company. So I own a cleaning company and also own a chemical company. Those are some things that I've done. But as Adam has told you recently, because of things that are going on, he and I and a couple of the guys have formed a movement, and I can talk about that in just a little bit, but it's just about making a difference and just showing people love. And Miss Natalia, I loved your bio. I read your bio, and it's like, I got to change my bio. It's not really like me. This is more me like just to having fun. So because of you, I'm changing my bio today. So thank you. And again, thanks so much for having me. And I'll talk a little bit more about LOPOL in just a bit, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, Natalia, you're up next.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. I'm Natalia Bishop. I am the founder at Story. We are a network of spaces and community for founders in Louisville. We started about 4.5 years ago out of a small space in Butchertown, and what was meant to be like a creative collective for photographers, which was my background, sort of became a thing of its own. And as all startups, we pivoted a million times and turned into this sort of home, a physical home for the startup community here locally. And one of the things that was really important to me in the process of building this, in the process of me, myself evolving and becoming a founder, was some of the blatant lack of access to certain things, like Angelique pointed out, for a specific type of founder, like myself, like many of us in the community. So my hope was to create a space where everybody could be welcome and had a sense of belonging, regardless of what they look like or their thoughts or beliefs or sexual orientation, just a home where we could create non-transactional relationships, where we could all kind of get to see each other and belong, and get our projects off the ground together in community, get some money, get some beer, and just have a good time while we're doing it, because I think that that's the spirit of Louisville. I am originally from Colombia. I've been here about 20 years. And then as well as in the process of creating all of this, we acquired the brand assets for the Wild Accelerator, which started as an effort to help women founders in Louisville by the folks over at Kale and Flax. And as it evolved as well, and it needed it needed some expansion, Story sort of partnered up and took those assets, and we're now making it into not just the accelerator piece. We have an amazing board that we're forming as well, to not just make it specific to women, but other minorities, because we do see the need. We are ourselves experiencing the needs. So we have Britt Fitzpatrick from Blue North heading our board now, and just very cool stuff coming for not just the accelerator, but what can we do to create that pipeline and widen that and resource people up early on, when you're still invoicing people with a Cash App. And holler if you've done that in the past. I have. Or if you're still kind of doing the Venmo thing, right, which is a lot of our entrepreneurs sort of teaching people about scale early on, and letting them know that is an option as well. So that is kind of what we're doing there with Wild. And then lastly, I very much like Angelique also have another hustle, and that is Level Up. And I am the founder and CEO of Level Up, and we are a modern education company helping women gain skills and knowledge through our live classes, and then an app that we are launching in 2021 for versatile learning. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Natalia. And Shane, tell us a little about you and your work.
Absolutely. So I originally I'm from Bowling Green, Kentucky. I currently live in Elizabethtown, so I'm on the fringes, but we claim Louisville from time to time, especially in the startup world. You know, we don't have the ecosystem that you guys do up there. So I kind of got into the entrepreneurial world 11, 12 years ago. I started a company, Custom College Recruiting, which developed into an online platform that helped high school age athletes in 53 different countries around the world access, opportunities to come play sports at universities here, and worked with national governments and from Australia, New Zealand, China, a bunch of different places. Now I have kind of shifted more of what I do into, I do a lot of public speaking, consulting with different startups, and learning the lessons that I've learned along the way and passing those forward. And then recently, more related to the topic, I guess, of today, I have a friend of mine by the name of Alex Todd. He is a Black pastor in Virginia, but also used to be the artist that we all know of, Drake. He was actually Drake's first manager. So Alex and I met a long time ago, back when that was occurring, and I have some time in the music business behind the scenes. So we developed a friendship and launched a podcast called The Not So Difficult, Uncomfortable Conversation right around the time that the George Floyd incident happened, for a couple reasons. One, I believe that the conversation of race needs to be brought to the forefront, and we need to normalize people that look like me having open dialogue and discussion and bringing awareness to these things, because it's still uncommon for some people to walk in a restaurant and see two white males discussing race and it not be something that we're automatically concerned about or worried about, and it needs to be brought to the forefront. So that's where I'm at. And then just recently we just locked in another podcast that we're going to be launching called the Color of Education, to where a friend of mine who has a group on Facebook called Blended Lines, his name is Cliff Jones, and he is going to interview educators of all walks of life, of all different colors and creeds, and highlight that, because we need more educators of color in the system, in the K through 12 system, and coming up. So that's a little bit about me and kind of what I'm doing that's relevant to what we've got going on today.
Yeah, well, thank you, Shane. Shane invited me to the Blended Lines Facebook group, and it is an amazing community of people from all walks of life and backgrounds. And I love seeing the discussions, the different conversations and everything that happens in that Facebook group. So if that's something you're interested in, encourage you to check that out. Shane, is it by invitation only, or
you can? It's a public group, so it's Blended Lines. Okay. I think the logo is green and brown. But if anybody, you can find me on Facebook, and I'm happy to send you an invite. It's a gentleman, Cliff Jones, out of Birmingham, Alabama, and it is people of white race who don't understand racism, white race who might be fringe racists. There are people of color who might be racist the other way. There's a whole mixture of people, and it's about respect and having hard conversations and hard dialogue. And sometimes it gets tense, but there's always a level of respect and understanding and open dialogue. It's really interesting. The cornucopia, you will, of the different people that's in there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it absolutely is. All right. Well, thank you all for the introductions. I would give some backdrop as we dig into some of the questions here. And I've really got 3 core questions for the panel to stimulate discussion, and then we'll see where that goes from here. So the first question is simply this: what challenges and opportunities do you see specifically in Louisville for Black business leaders, as well as people of color that are business leaders? What is out there right now? Aubrey, you want to take that one first? To see that big smile, we'll let you run first.
So again, since 2004, I've owned a company, a cleaning company. I started with 4 employees and went up to 43. I think the problem, not the problem, but what I see is just having support from the Black community. We just have to pitch together to make it all work together. And I think a challenge that we have sometimes is just not knowing other Black business owners. Like Miss Angelique said, there wasn't a big startup group of entrepreneurs, but we just need to have access to them to be able to say, hey, I'm having an issue with this issue. Have you had this problem? How can we work together we just need some kind of like what you're doing right here today, Adam, something where we can all get together and figure out how to work together and just how to make it work for us all.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Aubrey.
I think that's a really point that Aubrey brings up. We actually started something in actually post COVID, and it was really addressing that issue. We call it a wealth builder movement. And the whole concept is to bring together Black and brown wealth builders. So it could be entrepreneurs, could be real estate investors, could be business investors, or just people that are generally wanting to invest in the stock market or just generally wanting to build wealth for themselves, for their family, for their community. You can find us on Facebook, also on YouTube at Wealth Builder Movement. We do about once a month, we'll do a live session, but it's also something we're trying to foster people to just connect and talk and take advantage of that community. I think beyond us collectively gathering together, I think certainly there's always the financial piece. You really can't build a business without money. And I do believe that there are different rules that seem to pop up for Black entrepreneurs, and in some cases, entrepreneurs of color, although entrepreneurs of color is a very broad term. And so depending on what field you're in, you might be an entrepreneur of color and be doing quite well. So I think we do have to be cognizant of that. But certainly, by and large, entrepreneurs of color and Black entrepreneurs do face really large funding gaps. And that is in part systemic. But part of that systemic issue is the fact that funding is usually built from a community perspective. Investors invest in those who they know. And if they don't feel like they have had a whole lot of interactions, usually about either how they were raised or just personal self-selection with Black individuals, where they're in their friend circles, where they're going to church with them, where they're going out having beers with them, then they basically don't have that desire to fund those companies. And that is what it is. And we need to get beyond that. Also, in terms of funding, even pitch competitions, I judge for pitch competitions here locally. I judge for pitch competitions nationally. I created pitch competitions. And I think we need to get beyond the notion of a quota in our mind. I still see that with many pitch competitions where they're like, okay, we got one entrepreneur of color in, or we got, one Black founder in, and then they're like, they close the door in their brain to vetting and reviewing from an objective lens the other companies. So I think we need to do better, even here locally as a community, to vet companies based off of merit and not based off of a quota we have in our head about how many people should or shouldn't get through. Because when it comes to white male founders, there is no quota. The sky's the limit. So it's like we need 1 or 2 Black founders or, female founder, but, if we have 10 white male founders, that's okay. So I think those are some of the things that initially come to mind to me.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Natalia, what about from your perspective?
How candid do you want to get, Adam?
Hey, you know what? I think as candid as you want to be. We're here because I know that we're going to be candid. So let it roll, my friend. We love you so much.
I only have one mode, and that's basically candid all the way mode. But for me, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'll start with the fact that I am, I'm from Colombia, but I will always claim Louisville as my home. I think the reason why is that we have amazing people. Like we are at our core compassionate and kind and generous and good people. There's some crappy people, but for the most part, everybody's awesome. So, so I'll start with that as a container setting. My experience, and I am not a Black woman, so I can only speak from my experience, or you know, or a Black founder in Louisville. But what I have observed and what I have experienced, it's almost blatant. It's almost and I don't think it's I mean, I guess in some ways it could be intentional, in some ways it doesn't have to be. But you know, when you look at our national average of like, for every $1 million that white male raises, a Black woman raises $28,000. I mean, when you think about that in those numbers, right? It makes sense that we aren't seeing Black female founders out there in all the magazines and getting the publicity, which then breeds lack of visibility, which then breeds I'm self-selecting out because I'm not seeing myself represented, right? So I think locally that is even augmented because we're in the Midwest. There's already lack of access to capital for all founders, regardless of what you look like. So if you think about that $28,000 becoming, you know, a third of that, right? It's going to take intentional effort from the people with capital to really invest and really truly elevate those founders of color, those female founders, those queer founders, to give them a leg up, right? To be able to put them back into the exact same playing field as everybody else, specifically here in Louisville. And I think that there are some efforts popping up. We're just not anywhere near where we need to be yet, but we're making progress, I think. I think it also, and this is just something that I have experienced from my own friendships, from my own, you know, well-intentioned people around me that I love on and care for, is that we take racism personally in a way. We not being done onto us, but as being racist, right? Bias is in everybody. It doesn't matter what color you are or whatever, right? And the immediate position when someone calls you out on something that you're doing, it's to put up a wall of defense and say, but I am a good person. No, I am not a racist, you know? And then we can't move past that to really understand the fact that there is an action happening and that the action breeds a certain outcome. And I think that the moment we can kind of shift that lens of like, it's about its systemic piece, but there's also a piece that you can do to make your action the next time not be the same thing that you've done in the past forever and ever. And you don't have to justify that you're a good person. We know you're good. So and I mean that applies to everyone. It applies to me. It applies to everybody, right? But more specifically to white people, right? Because of the way that the system has been set up. So for me here, it's about growing the confidence of founders of color, specifically Black founders, at a really early stage. Maybe there isn't all the capital, maybe there isn't all the resources yet, but what you have is a community that gives a shit, right? It's a community that will have your back when you're running low on cash and you don't know what to do. We'll sit down and mentor and take care of you and lick your wounds with you and do whatever we need to do to get you back out there so you can take the next punch and so you can take the next punch. I think personally, or at least that's what I want for my community. I also want money because it takes money, like Angelique was saying. It takes a certain amount of cash to get to the next level so you can prove your concept. It takes a certain amount of cash to do this and this and this and that. And it's just gonna take a lot more representation. And because of our community not having done that for so long, it's going to take the startup grinds and the story mornings and the amplifies and the Vogue Awards to get out of the quota mindset, right? And really make an intentional effort to look for those founders that we have in the past assume aren't there. And when we do call out, it's going to have to be not just how do we fix it so it looks good for everybody else, or how do we have a panel about this, but really actually put in the work every single day and make this, there needs to be DI initiatives that aren't just about diversity and checking a box. It needs to be the core of our organizations and our entrepreneurial funds, our entrepreneurial efforts. And I think the perfect example of this is the great work that I think Larry Horn is doing at Amplify. It started there. He had some rocky things at the beginning, and got some feedback from the community, and really taking that feedback and sitting down and saying, "Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing?" Or and pivoting within itself, and not tripping over yourself and saying, "Oh, well, whatever," but really putting in the work every day. So those are my thoughts there.
Love it. Well, Natalia, a couple of the things that you said that really resonated with me, and I actually heard this yesterday from a Black gentleman that's been an entrepreneur in our community, and that white people often don't get, is that when the racial bias, when those things come out, as a white person, I don't feel it, right? I can't take it personally like a Black person or people of color can. And hearing that yesterday, and then even you resonating that's something that's so true, that we as white people have to understand that we don't feel that in our bones and on the inside like people of color too. And it's interesting, Shane, because in some of our earlier discussions too, that's one of the things that you were really good about sharing, that as a white person, it's hard to really know and walk in those shoes as well. So just wanted to really echo that, Natalia, that's so important, especially for white folks to share. So Shane, from your perspective as such an avid ally for the Black community, what are you seeing as challenges and opportunities from the conversations you've had and just from the work that you're doing for Black, Brown, and other people of color?
Yeah, so I think it's a big. So I want to point out a couple things. I guess that sometimes we as, and I'm going to say white males, because the realm of what we're dealing with is a white male dominated society, right? Natalia, massively accomplished, massively involved. We don't know each other personally, but I'm fully aware of her story. I'm fully aware of what she's done. She had to start her conversation off where she had to apologize or put a buffer in to where she could speak her mind and be honest about what she sees. And that's unfortunate. We have to eliminate that and to eliminate things like that, because when you look at the statistics, women founders and founders of color, they are exponentially more successful by sheer numbers per capita, per average, than white males. That is just the truth of it. So we have to find ways to involve more. Yes, there has to be more representation, right? There has to be, I'm 100% on eliminating the quota aspect, and we have to bring attention to some of these things and be unapologetic with it. So what I mean by that is we have to be able to have very frank conversation and not be worried about who we offend, because it isn't personal. It's personal to the people that it is affecting. And it is unfortunate. I have a daughter, so I take these two ladies out from a color standpoint. I look and say, would my daughter have the same opportunities in this environment going through this? And the reality of it is they won't. So we as white males have to be, I guess you said it, an ally in the process. So there has to be a bridge until it's normalized, where someone like me, for example, if Dr. Johnson reaches out and she says, hey, Shane, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. I want to get to know what she has, and what we should do as white males is then turn around and ask, how can I help? What can I do? And that's not offensive to ask. That's not like, it's kind of like defeating racism, right? Like for 400 years, this has been going on. They've been asking for help, right? So it is our job to step up and be proactive, because much like racism in the real world, racial issues in the startup technological world is a white man's issue. It is our issue to fix. We have to fix this, and we have to heal this. And I guess I'm having this very direct context of doing it because this is okay. It is okay to speak up. And let me, I know it's a little bit off topic, but I do want to address it. By speaking up and by being direct, there is a fear within a lot of white male community who maybe wants to be an ally or who maybe does see an injustice. There's a fear because of the system that is in place that if I do so, I'm going to miss out on opportunities or I'm going to miss out on a job. Have I been called racial terms as a white man from white people? 100% I have, right? But those fears are unfounded. You're not, no one, they don't cost me opportunities. I'm getting more opportunities because I'm supporting and speaking up. So it's not a direct answer to the question, but it was a real world thing that happened. And Natalia shouldn't feel, she should, because there's this stereotype, but now she's a person of color who's angry. And now she's an angry woman of person of color and fits in this stereotype. And no, you can be pissed off and angry about what's going on and be anything, and it's founded, and you should be able to stand on that. And we need to listen, and we need to not every, and Adam, you and I talked about this. Not everybody has the understanding. I've just grown up in it. I've been wherever. I can go walk on the west end of Detroit. I can hang out in Opelika, Florida. I can go on the west end of Louisville and walk around. I'm okay. I know how to maneuver and move. If you don't know, but you still care, I think the word of 2020 has to be empathy. If you can have empathy and you want to understand, if I want to understand what Natalia is doing in education, because I have a podcast where I'm literally interviewing hundreds of educators around the world, and now I want to know how I can help her. That's the thing. We have to be more proactive in helping and being allies. And ladies, I mean, I'd love, if you guys echo that or don't echo that. I didn't mean to speak for you. It's just I wanted to draw attention because, again, it's one of those things that happens in your everyday life. Natalia, you are walking into a meeting and saying, well, can I be candid? Can I not? No, F that. Like, just be yourself. And there has to be men in the room that applaud that and support that and believe that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for those initial thoughts and perspectives. I think it really lays the foundation for the next couple of questions that we have. And you guys can see why I wanted Shane on this conversation as well, right? You're not going to get that kind of perspective from many white men, and Shane has just done so much research, and that's why I really wanted him here. So, all right, so we've got about 20 minutes left, and I do have 2 more questions I want to get through. This next question is just really highlighting on the fact of all the challenges in particular that Louisville has faced the past few months with everything that's gone on with Breonna Taylor. I mean, in many cases, Louisville has been at the epicenter of so much as what is happening. So my question is simply this: how well has the Louisville business community done to step up and help level the playing field in light of this for Black people, brown people, other people of color? How is Louisville doing? I mean, are we making progress? Are we going backwards? Where are we in specific to the business community? But if you want to speak a little bit as well to the Black community as whole. So I want to cap this at about 10 minutes so we can get on to the next question. I know this is a big topic, but let's hear. Aubrey, you want to take a stab at this one first?
Yes. As Adam talked about earlier, we co-founded LOPOL. And I kind of tell you how it started. I'm gonna read you a quick text message. It was on June the 2nd at 8:43 in the morning. I said, "Good morning, my brothers. The last couple of days have been crazy. Landon, I don't know if you have a building or a storefront, but I pray protection over it. I've been angry, hurt, and amazed over the last couple of days over this turmoil. I don't even sit and watch the news, but hearing the stories and catching a glimpse of the news, then that sucks you in and you're mesmerized by disbelief. We had talked last week about my view as a Black man or African American. Right now it's crazy and scary. There are groups that are trying to take advantage of the situation to create opportunities to advance the cause and destroy our nation. In my quiet time this morning, I just wept for my community, for my people, but more importantly, my family. I pray for them that they will be strong and productive humans that have a positive voice in this world. And I sent each of my children a message saying, I love you and be safe. So I sent that to them Tuesday. Every Wednesday morning, we have a quick Bible study by Zoom. So in that Zoom meeting, Bryce said to me, Aubrey, I don't have the same filter that you have. We're not Black. How can we help? Those 4 words are kind of powerful, like we talked about here. How can they help? So another guy owns an apparel company. I said, Landon, will you make a shirt for me? He said, what do you want to say? I said, LOPOL. He said, what's that? I said, we gotta love on people out loud. It's just simple things. That's kind of what we're doing. And that's exactly, what we need is because of that in, our Bible study, it was just so clear to me that's something we needed, just a way to spread love. And it's just simple things that we don't get. You have a mask, people can't really see you smile. So it's just simple things, a wave, or just, by wearing this bracelet, a lot of times I'm thinking, hey, he cut me off, but hey, I got to love on him. So it just keeps me in check. So, so thanks for allowing me to share. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I love to send you all some of our stuff. So give Adam your information.
Yep. Hey, Aubrey, funny story that. So one of the guys I coached football with, I gave all the coaches LOPOL wristbands, and some dude cut off Chris going into Starbucks, right? I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but he was wearing his bracelet and he looked down at it and he's like, you know what? I want to do this to this guy, but I got to remember I'm going to love on him out loud and be kind and be the better person, even though he did it. So that's what LOPOL's all about, right? It's just reminding, because if love is the primary thing where kindness rules, then there's no room for hate, because there can't be love and hate in the same environment. So very good, Aubrey. Thank you for sharing. So Angelique, what's your perspective on, how's the city of Louisville doing? How's the community doing to help Black business leaders and the Black community as a whole in the wake of Breonna Taylor and what's going on?
I think that, to be quite honest, I have not seen much. That's not to say that there isn't much happening, but what I see with my eyes are boarded up stores downtown in response to peaceful protest. Now, yes, there was rioting and damage happened, I think, in the first 2 days of protests. And I'd even, there were Black businesses that have been affected as well. And so I called my friends that I knew had businesses downtown and said, hey, you need me to come down and keep an eye out for you. And I remember one of my friends, he had said, he having been there downtown for a long time, his location. And he was saying, yeah, I mean, I'm standing out front, glass is replaceable, but, I'm not really distracted by that. I'm more angered by the injustice that's happening. And so, but then to continually reboard and board up and to board up even further the downtown Louisville. I'm not from Louisville. So I will tell you, for the first time in a long time, I really did not want to be in this city. I don't know why you would destroy your own city by doing that. I mean, it's just, racism isn't just bad for Black people, it's bad for everybody. And there really was no reason. So I think, to me, that sends a strong sign to the Black community that, people have to understand the historical context to that you're not welcome here. And it's kind of redundant to put boards up on your building and then to put Black Lives Matter spray painted over those boards. I think that the business owner feels like they're trying to do their best they can do. And I understand why you would board up your, I'm not saying I don't understand the liability and stuff like that. I understand that, but I also have to tell people that there are consequences to the actions that we take, that we may feel we have to take or not. And so, to me, that's maybe more of a failing of city leadership than the individual business owners. I'm not sure, but I think we all have to have an accountability. So I think that left a bitter taste in people's mind. I think also when you consider the fact that on the West End, it's been boarded up. There have been businesses that haven't been doing well over there for years and nobody cared. And then when something shifts downtown for 2 days, and only 2 days, and I think it was only actually one night, out of 100 and plus almost 150 days, and then suddenly it's a crisis and we're all boarding up and we're all doing ridiculous things like putting on, we're open and you're totally boarded up. I think that sends a sign that's not welcoming. It's not productive. And then there's no justice that's been received for Breonna Taylor. And so that also, so I think it's hard as a Black business owner to feel supported by the community when the issues that are affecting us are not supported by elected officials. And so I don't know, I don't have anything pleasant to say on that end in the given time, but that's kind of my thoughts.
Well, that's what we wanted. That perspective is so important. And I was writing down, Angelique, what you said, because it is so powerful. And that is that racism isn't just bad for Black people, it's bad for everybody. And I don't know that a lot of people really understand it from that perspective. So I'm going to share that quote and a follow up with this, because that's such a powerful thing that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to. So thank you for sharing your heart and the candidness of theirs. So Natalia, what about you and your perspective on this?
Well, I think I'm gonna piggyback off of you, Angelique. Like when the protests first happening and that first night, and we're in Nulu, in Germantown, but our Nulu location on Market Street as a building, everyone boarded up. And for me, not knowing anything, like I've never experienced like a protest or whatever, I kind of just panicked. My like, because you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And so it's like, everybody else is boarded up, let's just do it, whatever. And after that first night, after I had time to think about it and like really like, go through, and it wasn't even our Main Street location, it was like our Market Street. So we only boarded up one location, which was kind of dumb if you think about it, looking back on it. But again, it just speaks to that panic of like, you don't know what to do, and you just do it. And then after that night, I was like, this is not the right thing to do. Thinking back to what you're saying, like, this is in me showing up for my peers and saying, this isn't okay. Where's the action? Like, where is it? There's love, right? And you were talking about love earlier, but love without action is bullshit, right? And so it's like, where is the action that goes and accompanies that? And so, many businesses in the Nulu area have decided to not board up, specifically because of what you're saying. It shows that, material, I've worked my ass off to get here. I personally, as a human, I fought with my husband a lot. It's like, it's personal, right? It's like, it's your own blood, sweat, and tears, and and the journey to get here and all of that. But you know what? Set it on fire. I don't even care, because it's not in any way, not near close to someone's life, to the experience of being Black in Louisville, Kentucky. And if it has to burn, let it burn, right? And because and even if I grow poor from this, which hopefully I don't, but if something was to happen and no one came and story shut down and all these things, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna suck. I'm not saying I want that to happen in any way, but does it measure or compare in any way to being Black in Louisville, Kentucky, and not being able to lay in your bed without, maybe getting shot, right? So it's just, when you think about it that way, and that translates now to our neighborhoods, right? So we're seeing a lot more activity that's criminal in Norton Commons and the East End of Louisville, and areas that perhaps weren't really considered unsafe before, right? And if it's a car, it's a car. If it's not that I'm saying that criminal activity is okay in any way, but I'm saying, like, the pain is there. The pain is there, and we as businesses, to me, we can't wait for the government all the time. I think, Adam, you and I talk about this all the time. Like, things have to be sustainable. The market dictates what goes and what doesn't. And as businesses, we are powerful. We have all the power to make some decisions that are going to put people first. And we have to do those things. I, like Angelique, don't necessarily think that as a business community, and you have two business communities here. You have your lifestyle businesses, that are under a certain, $20-30 million in revenue, your mom and pops, your Main Street, and then you have your startup community sort of like layered right next to each other. And I don't necessarily think that our Main Street community has really been there hasn't really been like this leadership around it, so that all of these Main Street mom and pops people like me at Story aren't panicking and boarding up. No one has stepped up to say, okay, you shouldn't be boarding up, and here's why. Let me tell you, this happened, and let's all come together and And now there has been efforts, of course. There were letters sent, and it goes both ways, right? There were letters sent to new business owners demanding, certain ratios on your retail shops, and whatever on your, and we've seen that on the news. And so there are things that have come off like very aggressive, that have been off-putting to the business community. So we just have not nailed down that sauce on either side, I think. And there hasn't really been room for conversation, right? We haven't really pause, exhale, and say, okay, we're not going to fix it by fighting. We're not going to fix it by boarding up. We're not going to fix it by that. How do we talk about it? It's about wealth creation, like Angelique was saying. It's about like putting action that's going to break whatever system is already in place through money, right? And how do we take a small piece, each of us take a small piece of that? I don't necessarily think we're anywhere near where we need to be there yet. I don't know who's going to step up and do it. But it really definitely does need to happen. So.
And really quick, I wanted to comment on Natalia saying, for me, I literally live at work, basically. My location is in Butchertown,
Mm-hmm.
and I drive past Natalia's spot, right, Story, every day going home. And it became almost like, oh, is Story open? You look up, you say, oh, the lights are on. And sometimes I drive home late. Oh, are the lights on? Is someone in there? And you cannot underestimate the value of life into bringing hope and encouragement to people. I participated in Allies March, and we had a chant this past Saturday with Mark Murphy and Sadiqa Reynolds. And there was a chant like, out of the bars into the streets. And of course, some people did, but not really, right? But sometimes just the owners would come out, or just the people would come out, the workers would come out, and they would just, chant with you, or they'd raise their fists or something. And that alone, it's not monetary, but for the small business owners who don't have the monetary thing, that alone just shows like, oh, okay, like you're supporting, and it makes me think like, oh, I'm gonna go back to that bar, on Bardstown Road, because the waiters came out and they actually supported in whatever way they could without interfering with their life, obviously, because I gotta make money. But yeah, so those little efforts do mean a lot to people, I think.
Very good. Shane, from your perspective, looking kind of from outside in, being, not in Louisville proper, what are your thoughts on what's been said here?
So I can't speak, obviously, on what's happening on the day-to-day in Louisville. So what I am going to do is I'm going to echo in a translation to white people out there who maybe don't understand this, because I think that's I don't mind being that, right? So there's been some talk about church and church groups amongst the group and religion and different things, and we live in the Bible Belt. Here's what I say. You don't get to heaven just by praying. So prayer without action doesn't get you into heaven. Fixing racism without action won't fix racism. So that, along with what Natalia was getting to and saying that there is a disconnect between the startup community and the we'll call it generational success business community. Essentially, I'm going to put it in really direct terms. Old white money has to be the minds. We have a lot of that in Kentucky. There's a lot of generational money, and it's the older white guys, right? I had the unique benefit to being able to go and be invited and sit in as the only non-member a couple years ago on the Kentucky Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame board. And I got to sit in, and they wanted my input, and I will tell you, some of it is stereotypical of what you would think is in the room, but there also is not. So on the flip side of that, it takes two people coming together. It's kind of like a marriage, right? If I don't ever tell my wife what she does that pisses me off, or she never tells me, eventually at some point we are going to come to a head, and it's not going to be pretty. The second thing that I want to echo is when you hear these folks talk about burning things down, I think it's important to not steer the narrative of, yes, 93% of all, and Louisville is a huge part of that. I'm so proud. You can't see it, but I've got a picture of Muhammad Ali here, and I'm so proud to be a Kentuckian. I'm so proud of what this represents, and the spirit of Louisville from the protest standpoint has very much embodied what Muhammad Ali protested every day of his life. That's what he did. And when we talk about we want to fix racism, if it takes, and this is going to probably be really inflammatory to some people, but if it takes burning half of our country down so that everyone feels the same equalities and the same safety and the same things that I feel as a white man, then we all have to be okay with that. And that's where I'll leave it, because I can't really add a lot, but I just wanted to be a translator to those that maybe look like me that don't understand. So do we want things to burn down? No. Do we want violence? No one is cheering for that. But we have to say, I'm okay, because there's a fear. There's a fear that as white people, we think that if I give Dr. Johnson or Natalia, if I give them equal opportunity, well, that means I'm going to lose something, or that means I've got to give something up. Only if you're not qualified, and only if, because the market is the market. The market says, so that means that there now in lies this thing called white privilege, right? So now all of a sudden, if I'm not good enough, if I go to a pitch competition, if I start another startup and Dr. Johnson and I are sitting, we're at the Louisville Boat Club and we're both pitching, and I don't win, it should be because she is better than me. And that's okay. And if I'm pissed off about it, it's not because of the color of her skin. It's that she kicked my ass, and that's the truth. And that's how we have to embrace this and do it. And because the reality of it is that's the way it should be.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So I've got one more question. So we're going to change it a little bit just because we're right up on 1 o'clock here. So the final question is this. Basically, what can people who are not Black people or people of color do to support the Black community and other people of color? So how can we help? So in just as concisely 1 or 2 sentences, how can folks that look like me and Shane help out? Angelique or Dr. Johnson, will let you go first.
To me, I feel like people will pay for anything, but they won't pay for change. So concisely, you can pay for change. Some practical things you can do. If you want my Black expertise as a Black female with, good Lord, I'm old now, so 2 decades of experience in technology to tell you how to diversify your Fortune 500 company, you can write a check. You can address it too. And you can
Okay.
it. If you have money to put into an investment fund to support Black founders, you can write a check. You can put it in there. So I think my biggest thing is just the world moves by money. Please put some money behind your words, and stop appropriating don't appropriate events and activities and initiatives that are started by Black people. Put your name on it and call yourself a supporter, or, slap a little chump change and call yourself a sponsor. Put money behind your words and actions behind your thoughts.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. Aubrey, what are your thoughts on that?
Dr. Johnson said, we just got to get the support. We got to have people to support our businesses, So what I'm saying to you guys out there, just support our businesses and be there to lend financial support, because we do need money. We're a smaller companies. We're a smaller niche in the whole puzzle of everything. So give us support and just spread the word that we even exist. So I'll let the other 2 go. Natalia, your turn.
Yeah, so I kind of think the same way. Obviously, money is a huge thing, and we'll talk about that. But I think it's also about education, right? And doing the work and not waiting for people to educate you. I think that takes a lot of inner strength to have to A, acknowledge that you have a problem, B, go actually do something about it. Obviously, there's a million resources out there, but How to Be an Anti-Racist is a great book. And then if you're in the startup community and you want to learn something, this book, It's About Damn Time by Arlan Hamilton. It's specifically for underestimated founders, but I think reading it as a white male, it's really important. So you can get a perspective lens on what it's like, and why it's important that either whether you're a founder or a person with money, with capital, that you kind of can come from a lens of what's needed, and then you can make an action of giving that. If it's not money, if it's mentorship, if it's blah, blah, blah. And third, I think we need to just start thinking about it as just start doing some inner work so that you don't take it personally. You're gonna fuck up. You are. You are going to, you're gonna mess it up. You're gonna board up that store once in panic, right? And then accepting that you did it. You're gonna say the wrong thing once. You're gonna bring the wrong person to the panel, and you're gonna get your booty whooped, right? And by the community, you're gonna get called out. You're gonna get cancel culture, and that's okay, right? It's okay that, and you don't give up, and you don't get pissed off, and you walk away in a different direction. You get right back in that ring, and you say, okay, I screwed this up. Let me try again. And that's, I think, what it's gonna take.
Awesome, thank you. And we have all the right people on this panel today, right, Natalia? You said we don't always get the right people.
I think we could have used a little more founder, black founder. I would have liked to see, honestly, if we're being candid, I would have liked to see nothing but black founders. But because, we sprinkle some people of color and some allies, I think that's great. But I think something to think about is how do we grow to the next time? And I think really making this participation event something where we have a heavy majority of the people that whose experiences we're talking about. Although I know the format is hard, but good job anyways.
All right. Well, thank you. And I, as always, love that candidness. All right, Shane, what are your perspectives as we're getting ready to wrap up here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I won't echo a lot of the really great things that they've mentioned about definitely support Black businesses. There's a lot of really good websites. I think there's even some Instagram accounts that are listing and showcasing these things throughout Louisville, which is really cool to see. Even support Black farmers. There's a lot of Black farmers at the markets and the different things. But also, what I would say is start the education early. So if you're a non-person of color and you have the money and resources and power, find people in the Black community to help you make change with curriculum in schools within the K through 12. We don't need whitewashed education and support things like Columbus Day. We need the truth about what's happened and how we got here and how we move forward. When it comes to, Adam, I would suggest with your platform, find a way to make it to where reach out to the people in the community, find young aspiring Black individuals and expose them. They need exposure to things like this. They need exposure to sit in and see how it works, see how you're doing the interview, how you're prepping for the interview, why you're asking the questions. Like, take them around. I have no doubt that all of us as founders, as entrepreneurs, our doors are always open, right? And I'll say this to everybody, anybody here who wants to communicate with me, please find me. I'll talk to you at 2:00 in the morning. So with that, help advocate and help put resources together, help work on plans with the city, with the school, and how to bring people like Dr. Johnson or Mr. Lipscomb in to come and speak to kids. And it's okay. It's not racist to bring a group of Black kids together and say, hey, here's these awesome people that look just like you in the community, and we want you to meet them and them to meet you. And that's like, we have to have more of that. So along with everything else that's said, it starts also with education, like Natalia said, but at a younger age. And then also, if you want me to be really frank, you need to bring some people in, like these authors of How to Be an Anti-Racist, White Fragility, these things. These are the people that need to be brought in as guest speakers at these different luncheons, at these different startup togethers. Dr. Johnson needs to come in and be able to be given a full platform to say, here's the shit that's going wrong. Here's the inequities and inequalities that are happening. And you're probably not going to agree with this, but I ask that your empathy opens your mind to at least hear me, and then who cares about what happened in the startup community for the last 2 weeks? Let's also bring attention to this once a month. Let's bring like an inequalities version of what's happening. So that's my 2 cents. And
awesome. Well, listen, thank you all so much for taking time. I love this conversation. Shane, thanks for being here to help translate for white people too. I love that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted you here, because you do that very, very well. So Dr. Johnson, Aubrey, Natalia, Shane, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. This is a recording that I hope that people go back and watch over again, as there is so much work to be done here in Louisville.
Thank you guys for having me.
Before we let everybody go, our next event is coming up on November 11th. Paul Heintzman one of the co-founders of Saltwater Woody American Rum right out of Louisville is going to be here. So this is going to be an interesting conversation for those of you that like rum and those kind of things. They've got a very unique brand. So that's going to be our next Startup Grind conversation in November, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.